good. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jerry.
Hello, Siva.
Here for another tool shed. Good to see you, Jeff. Jess, RL. It's always an
I like
iPhone.
this.
Thank you. You're all welcome. Whatever your names are, this is great, Jerry. Today we are talking about door swing clearances
And doors and the
and
principles of
doors.
doors.
The science of doors. This is an Ask Us Anything session, so if you've got any questions about tools or anything regarding doors, please jump on the chat, or if you like, you can. We'll do some time at the end if you want to come off mute.
And we're all students, but the aim of tools is to evolve a method by which we're probably getting the science of, the knowledge of key parts of what we already know quite well, but we're crystallizing these into deliverables and kernels that we probably should have got years ago, but we're doing it in a 20th to 100th of the time with, of course, the reference back to tools at any time.
Yeah, so the purpose of this session is to just go into a deep dive and hopefully transfer some knowledge across. So let's get into it. Jerry, you are a risky person or a risk-averse person. A long time ago, you created this table, which I want to talk about really quickly. You put risk into, and in fact, tools is all about risk and in the way in which we categorize our information and profile
And
it.
cherry pick. We cherry pick from the documents and anything that's compliant and anything that's useful, and try to extract out of that something that we can illustrate and make clear to the industry.
So let's talk about these risk categories. So the first one, risk of loss, financial loss. Fairly obvious. It can hurt when things go wrong.
Dumb decisions can be, in my experience, between probably 10 and 1,000 times the cost of stopping and resetting and making a good decision. I probably see, and to me, harm to people, including psychological and physical distress, is probably more important to me than the physical loss. But often the numbers people will calculate financial loss as the primary objective. There isn't a lot in building except falls and slips and electrocution that leads to death risk. But you'll see I'll concentrate in all these tool sheds and in tools themselves in limiting physical injury to people, especially if it stops mobility.
And then rectification difficulty. Sometimes once a detail is buried under layers, it can be difficult to get to that element, a waterproofing membrane, for example.
And it's demonstrating to all of you, fam, that that is a major problem, because it's just so difficult to fix up something that maybe took 5 minutes and $5 to have got right at the construction phase and on the drawing board too. So giving instructions and following through.
And then the latency of the defect. It's not always obvious, unfortunately, that a defect's there until further down the track. So those are the key risk categories, and we've broken them into, if you're familiar with tools, if I just bring that up, all of our content is categorized into these core categories.
And I might foreshadow too, and some of you are designers, we're going to have a contest about this navigator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Siva's been patient because he would probably normally search by word. I know increasingly people are searching by voice because apps have got a voice technology. Me, I always search by picture, but I love the idea of a person. If I was in China and I wanted to search in Chinese, I would love to be able to search by either one of those three methods. But we're going to have a contest on the navigator.
Yeah, we're looking to actually, so watch that space. We're going to be redesigning our home graphic at some point. But let's talk about let's take a look at these categories. So waterproofing, and you said this is a high risk cost of financial loss, relatively low risk of harm. People are not generally getting harmed when waterproofing goes wrong. Generally, difficult to rectify, and latency is high because it's buried under other.
Yeah, but today I don't want to lose the room. I mean, what I want to do is just say that everything we do has an implication. If you install a door in a weather exposed wall without a rain hood, without a graded threshold, there's risk of loss. There's risk of loss both to water coming inside. There's risk of harm when floors are slippery when they're not meant to be. There's certainly risk of economic loss if doors are not durable. And the rectification issues of taking out a door, an expensive fire door, is quite excessive.
Yeah, so I mean, and one of the challenges is doors sits across multiple categories. All right, so there's
Mm.
waterproofing aspect. There is certainly a fire aspect when you're talking about fire doors, finishes, access. So the risk around doors is dependent upon the installation, but certainly along with fire, really high risk
But
there.
if our mindset just gets clear that, and and I am going to be direct, we're dealing with an audience both today and all of our users who are pretty cluey. The fact that we weren't taught properly and we didn't have access to this science when we were taught, and we don't have this on ready reference yet, except when you use tools, doesn't mean that if it's a door in a fire rated wall, it must meet the fire requirements that are needed.
Mm.
So, and that it's just so simple for us to be aware of these ingredients when we're designing, when we're building, and when we're following through with whatever area. Today's about doors and door swings. Next week, I've got that on our list. We'll be talking about something completely different, but the same issues apply.
All right, let's get into doors. So key terms, Jerry. First aspect.
Probably the swing, and you will find, or the handle we used to call it, left hand, right hand. We're only talking about swing doors today. We're not talking about sliding or bifold or multifold or any of that. We're just going to concentrate on the common old garden swing door. So we know the hinge side. It has hardware. We call it quite often a leaf on a swing door. The door leaf. It's got, depending upon its complexity, there are lots of different hinge types, which I won't go into today, but you can make a door swing 90 degrees. You can make it swing 180 degrees. We've got hinges that can swing 270 degrees, right, which allows you to wrap a door round, which is like an angled parliament hinge. You've got a whole range of different hardware which you can apply. There's kick plates, there's push plates, there's cover plates, there's a whole range of hardware. So we've got the opening, width, we've got the rebate, we've got the face of door, we've got the door hardware. It's, again, you'll see with me, I just like the same jargon used.
Yep. And just one of the key things, just for those of you who are newer to tools, all of the red content is code based, and you see the little superscript. If you click on that, you'll get the citation, and you'll be able to click on that, copy it. You can go back to your original sources if you wish, but increasingly people are just relying upon this content, and also this little symbol here also brings up the citation. So all content on tools is cited. Do you want to, and you'll also actually notice Jerry's doorometer. So you'll see these sprinkled around tools. So you'll be able to just set your setting that's specific to you.
We'll get into this with the door swing rules, and these are very defined rules, preset by, I believe, 1428 and the access standards are some of the best standards, because it's given us very specific and very clear measurements to apply with the geometry of what we do as designers, which is really important to make sure the drawings speak to the rules. And then, of course, when we install it as constructors and builders and tradesmen, we know what they are. But here's some feedback. I used to go and inspect buildings with accessible doors that had to have a clear opening of 850. And what would happen is that the doors themselves would be 850, but they would not swing. We did not give a clear opening to the jamb of 850 when they were hinged open, just because there wasn't the synergy between the manufacturer, the compliance regime, the ABCB, and the designers. And so commonly for about 3 years, the doors were non-compliant.
So key terms you've gone through. Let's talk about the science of.
All right, so I'm going to be saying that, door swings, the most primitive, the most original doors, and when I say doors, they were openings in primitive times, and they sometimes had a panel that was pushed in. So now we've moved on to a mechanism where basically, the principles of doors is that they allow access between spaces from inside to out. They weatherproof, they provide security. And I don't want to, babysit any of the listeners today, but it's really an essential part of movement within a building and between spaces. So it's communal garden. I'm more interested in the risk and the golden rule, so I don't want to tell you the obvious with it. The different types of doors, as you will see, and each door will have its specific characteristics, construction, and design constraints.
Just a quick tip. We have this mantra of find zoom, share. So if you are talking to someone, whether you're a teacher, I know there's a couple of teachers here. Hi, Lisa, nice to have you here from Wodonga TAFE. So if you're talking either to a classroom or to a client, to a customer, to a contractor, find the tool you want, zoom into the detail. So if you are looking at door leaf clearances, you can pop the little side panel out because that's got additional information in it, as I'm showing you here.
It shows how it's measured. It shows that there's a little bit of flexibility for minor warping, but most importantly, I just see doors where people have got a 2 millimeter clearance on one side and 6 on the other, and they bitch to me about it, and I just pull out the tool and basically say, you've only got a maximum 3 millimeters in the main with fire doors. They only make the mistake once. They then make sure their margins and clearances are spot on. Now, the clearance at the base is really important too, and often they haven't allowed for finishes, and of course the combustibility. And we're just talking about a fire door. But more and more, as buildings become more complex and accommodation is aggregated into class 2s and class 3s, then please be aware that we'll be seeing more fire doors, we'll be designing more fire doors, and all the rules about the fire protection are important, and the access, nice trip-free spaces, non-slips surfaces, all those sort of integration between different floor finishes become really important.
For those of you who clicked in the chat, I showed you, so generating a share link. So you would have noticed that as a recipient, you get the same view. So that can really expedite communication, right? If you're speaking to someone on the phone or via a call, if you're both looking at the same picture. Lisa was saying to me earlier, one of the lecturers at Wodonga, she said, picture tells 1,000 words. So do use that share. The other way that you can share things is the download PDF function. So that's just another way if you want to include it in documentation as a handout, as a printout, stick it up on the wall. It's got a QR as well. So just a couple of ways to add.
Now, these are ready to send off now. So quite often I'm using them for sort of educational purposes just on the site. But ideally, we're going to be bundling these up into little modules that might go to, the science of doors, and then there might be fire door, hinge door, sliding door, balcony sliding door, multi-fold doors. So we may well be bundling those things up, and you will be able to teach to this eventually. You can teach to it on the whiteboard, but ideally you're sending a person who knows about doors something if you're in a business enterprise design group, and if you're a teacher, to enable this by whiting out some of the labels and encouraging people to understand and know the terminology and the definitions is certainly on our radar.
We'll get back into doors, but just know that there's also travel distance and travel width, which is obviously a part of a different topic, but that information is there as well. So Jerry, if we get back, so we've spoken about the principles. What are some of the most common pitfalls and traps that you've seen out on site?
Oh, I just think that, often I just see doors that have been placed in the wrong position. It hasn't allowed for furniture. It essentially isn't in the optimum position. So there can be design mistakes made, so for any of the designers there, please consider the way people move. And I shouldn't even have to say this. This is Design 101. So obviously, if it is a single door, then you need to make sure that it's understanding the way spaces work, and the door is quite often a junction between different spaces. Please make sure that it's placed in the right location. To the people installing them, I cannot say, look, the mistakes, the pitfalls are, I've never used a hollow core door. I've never personally installed or specified a hollow core door. I know there are financial constraints, but I've never installed. I've seen tens of thousands of them. I've seen too many of them with holes in them. I've seen too many where the bottom's been cut off and the core filling is sort of sitting at the bottom without a timber strip. So those type of things disappoint me. Too often I've seen solid core doors hinged with just 2 hinges instead of 3 hinges. And I cannot say the use of timber doors externally on external walls that are weather exposed, I don't recommend. I prefer steel faced doors. So there are lots of pitfalls. I'm not going to go and lecture you guys about the durability side, but ideally you're encouraging your client to make better choices. So they say, oh, I hate the additional cost, but they come back to you when their building is maintenance free, causing much less FM cost. And especially with any of you doing bigger projects, I can assure you your clients love the fact that you've covered their back with future maintenance.
Just having a look around at some of the accessibility tools that are relevant. Where do you want to go, Jerry?
Well, I'm probably just going to make sure I've got my run sheet here and I stay on task with what we're doing.
Golden rules?
The golden rules. I've said here, design dictates the door. So obviously we've spoken about spaces. We also know that, the use of the space, for instance, if you're putting a door between a kitchen and restaurant, it's a 180-degree hinge door. If you're putting a door to from the hall in a Class 2 building to a unit, you want to make sure that both the fire rating and the acoustics are covered. So from the design side, you're always making sure that you're understanding how it's going to be used, and that dictates the sort of door you're using. Performance-wise, I cannot say how important it is for us. So if anybody's a carbon fanatic and not wanting to waste carbon, this should resonate with you. Every time you make a bad choice and don't use a durable door, then it's going to come back as some form of unnecessary carbon wastage, besides a lot of unnecessary distress and money. Or if we're architects and designers, our work looks horrible. The amount of external rotten, damaged doors that I see of timber construction that were sold to us as fit for purpose is disgusting. I think it's an industry-wide practice, so please choose a durable external door.
Yeah. Just really quickly, you saw it probably takes about a minute or so to generate the PDFs. It's not an instant thing. The system's got to do its thing. So, but just an example of a PDF that's it there. It's got the QR in there. So if you do want to print it off, it is also linked. So if you click it, it'll go there. So if you're just sharing it with other people, often one of the main uses of tools is expedite communication between people. So the PDF.
And also, Siva's doing what I'm asking all of us to do. We need to nerd into the knowledge that we need in the industry. I think tools provides it, but often now, and I'd say 1 in 3 cases, there's a luminous contrast requirement with what we do. So we need to make sure that the door itself is findable to a person who has whose sight impaired.
So another golden rule: performance and durability.
Paint the tops and bottoms of doors. Choose durable hardware. If you're being sold a 316 hardware set, make sure it's 316 and not something that's going to just tea stain. If somebody substitutes anything for you, please make sure that the performance of that product is going to be exactly as you would want. So it is universal. So one of the things that's going to come through from the shed and all of our Teach Me modules is universal fit for purpose. Please do not have to take responsibility for a substitution or bad original choice. And if you are going to install something that's been lumbered on you, just shoot an email and say, we don't recommend the use of this particular product next to the sea, or in a pool room, or in a basement area, or in an accessible service area that the handle is going to be seen by high value clients walking past.
Yeah, and there is the selection tool. So probably one of the things, I mean, even I'm clicking around tools and I keep discovering new things. So one thing I would say is there are a bucket load of tools. There's over 300 of them, right?
I do like the selection tool because, and
Yeah.
I think some of this stuff is a work in progress, peeps. Please, we're getting some really good feedback from people giving us tips about this. This is a nice little pick list. This is how my brain works when I choose a product. You might say he's boring as batshit. Well, I don't seem to have the performance problems when I'm specifying or helping a client make a wise choice or just encouraging wiser choices, because I always think about compatibility between substrates and the ultimate finish. I always choose, a sealant that is compatible and color matched and fit for purpose and UV resistant and mold resistant. And you guys are saying, he's a maniac. No, I'm not. I'm just a normal person who likes buildings to last and look lovely and have our beautiful intention to be still really desirable in 10 years' time.
Yeah, and a 50-year design life is something you've been repeating.
I took a photograph of Martin Place yesterday. I'm going up to see a high value client who owns a lot of real estate. And I was thinking, all these beautiful 130, 140-year-old buildings, they're looking phenomenal. Yeah, they need to be washed down. They're just beautiful. So Siva's showing the population table. So all of our door sizes when we're designing and our circulation and our egress is all dependent upon the number of people using our building. Now, some of us are just doing houses. So a standard 820 door will be fit for purpose coming out of a class 1 house. Mm-hmm. But let's say you want that door to look really yummy. A lot of designers are using a 920 1 meter 20 door. And often they're making 2 meters, it's 2 meters 40 tall. There are issues with that. And if you haven't put 4 hinges on a door taller than 2.1 meters, you'll probably find if it's painted a dark color, it is probably going to be twisting and warping unless you're very careful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are sliding doors. I don't think we
won't get into sliding.
Let's not distract the team with the sliding door story.
If there's any questions, let us know. We've got a few more minutes, but let's keep going. We've got the golden rules, good choices. You spoke about selection of materials. It's one of your mantras, right?
Yeah, I'm really keen for the industry to step up to what they want, which is not being the fall guy for a bad choice. So, and you'll hear this theme coming through all of the sheds and you've seen it on tools. I don't, and one, I think the legislation needs to change because we're still being dumped with a process that encourages manufacturers to give us products without taking responsibility. And so anything any of you can do to change that, because I think we should be given products that last and are much superior to the products that are breaking down and causing a defect to be found.
And one of the things that you will notice on tools is this idea of integration, right? So, and this probably isn't the greatest example, but you'll see these.
If you just go to a hinge door or.
Yeah, let me just go back to finishes, doors.
So you saw the population table. You will see metal durability. You'll see concrete threshold. This is one of those things. I was so pleased when we did this. And it's not even that there's a drain there, because sometimes you can't get the drain. But it's a no-brainer to get a fall in the concrete and or the tiles and a little water bar behind the door. In this case, I never put a water bar under the door because water gets blown underneath it. I always put the fall from behind a hinge door, especially an inward opening one. So here's a rule of thumb from the old builder bloke side of me. Try to put external doors, weather exposed doors, outward opening. That is the first rule to get external doors watertight. So an outward opening external door is easier to keep watertight. But if you can't do that, yes, they've got nice little aluminium thresholds that get a reasonable seal, but always expect them to leak. Always expect them. That's my dog, Ralph. Did you see some of the pictures? So again, you can see that nice little threshold. Get the concreters that you're engaging and the builder used to always falling their thresholds away. So this is part of the integration. So you might have a great door, a good choice. The weather strips are on, but the threshold hasn't been thought about because we've been taught not to integrate all the skills needed to deliver the composite of the door and the threshold.
Yeah. Ralph wants to join. So look, that's the integration aspect is all of the tools that you can jump through. You can see on screen there that these here really just take you very quickly through to another version. So you can switch between a roller to a swing door.
But integration will go to the fire door. Integration will go to paint durability. Integration will go to metal durability. Integration will go to a whole range of different things that we need to consider.
Yeah, so for example, if you're building stairs, you have a landing which has got glazing, or you've got a fire door, you can very quickly...
You've got a door swing rule from the swing of that door. We haven't gone to door swing clearances yet. We better quickly do that because, and I'm going to mea culpa, I am not doing a lot of work with door swings with 1428. But if we go to that, and what I want you all to know is that this is here. We've got an ometer. It tells you how much clearance you need on the latch side. It tells you the size of landings and the spaces that need to be left. It's quite rigid, and it's good because it allows the dignity of people who may not have the mobility that all of us in this room have to use spaces and to use the swing door effectively. And the access consultant will require you to meet these requirements when you design and install it. So why not have it there on your phone? I'll just double check. If the concreter wants to move the curb 30 mil, then you'll say, no, we can't do that.
Yeah. Just a couple more tips. The space blocks are useful. Increasingly, we're seeing them on plans, on documents, on reports. So it's a nice way you can copy that and paste it on. If it becomes a printed document, they can always scan the QR, or if it's a digital document, they can click on it. It needs to be linked. But you can grab the link and the image from here. So that's one way, or you can add it to a project as well. So we've got a specification product which is under projects, but you can add it and create your own projects as well.
And here's a tip too, that you may not have documented every single specific door and door size and door swing, but if you refer to tools contains it. So they're still going to be bound, even if you haven't documented and you say that the work shall be in accordance with tools and or every other documentation rule set, then it's going to be trapped. If a person doesn't put the minimum size of landing, then you'll be able to refer to it in tools and show them they should have got it to this dimension.
Yeah. Excellent. I think that is about that. Detailing and installation. So when you're detailing, Jerry, or installing best practices and what to verify, things you should
Look, it would be nice to probably interrogate all of you there, but I was taught I arras all 11 corners of the door. You know, I use 3 hinges on solid core standard doors. I paint the top and bottom of doors, and it's just relentless. I roll and lay off the doors. I paint the edges of the doors first before I roll the face. So there are a real set of rules that we all should have been taught as part of our training as designers. Even if you've never painted before, you should be told the basic rules of making sure that your door is going to last. I'm not a fan of timber external doors, so please do not specify the block core fill doors. And in my opinion, I never specify a timber door that is sun exposed and weather exposed. So it's a metal face door, and then there's a whole raft of durability issues with metal face doors. So that would be the topic of another conversation, but certainly if it's a city building that's not close to the sea, a Zinc-Alume face door is fine. Bushfire doors, I'm sorry, the Zinc-Alume can't turn around the reveals. So the bushfire doors have got a metal face, but because of transmission of radiant heat, then that metal face cannot return around. You've just got to make a really good call. And I say to anybody who knows Hume and Corinthian, improve your core product, peeps, because I'm seeing unnecessary failure on doors from major suppliers who've got the best of intentions, and I don't want us to be carrying that can anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're pretty much out of time, but check out, if you haven't before, check out the bushfire construction tool. You can set all your different bells, and all the content dynamically updates, and there is a bit of information on doors there as well.
It's adorable.
It's adorable. All right, if there's no questions, we'll finish off there. We also love some feedback, so if there's particular topics you want us to cover, we are working on, I know we've been saying it coming soon, but we are working on this CPD component so that we can reward you ourselves with some tools points, tool status for attending these types of learning environments, but also for using tools, because there's a lot of this knowledge, so that needs to be recognized.
To all of you listening, I commonly travel an hour and a half up, and I hear stuff and it's not consolidated. It's off the cuff. I'm sorry, I don't rate most of the CPD that I have to do. These little modules are essentially, most of the modules are almost like a full semester course. As long as you refer to the core tools there, you get to know where they are, and you stitch them together whenever you need, and you share them with people who are going to make a mistake on your watch. What I want to foreshadow too is that next week is formwork finishes. So that would be an interesting one. My only complication is I'm helping a client with an NCAT matter. So Siva might be home alone with this, but maybe that's going to be a forum whereby we can maybe chat about other areas of how you would be using tools as a module to train and encourage craftsmanship in both the design and construction in your workforce.
Yep. Okay, thank you for the comments. Thanks, Lisa. Yes, absolutely. We're working on it. Lisa, thank you, and good to chat earlier. Thank you all for attending.
So good, so good. I've just got to see the names. Say, Louisa, Jeff, David, Mark. I've lost you all.
There you go. Well, they're there. All right, guys. Cheers. See you next time, next week.
See you. Bye.